Watching Talking Points, a focus on the political scene in Lubbock and across the South Plains.
So here's a look at some of the headlines from the past week. A political cartoon posted in the Lubbock Avalanche Journal causing quite the stir and getting a reaction out of a few state leaders. It looks like this cartoon made it into several newspapers around the country, including the AJ's editorial page. It's a syndicated cartoon from artist Rob Rogers and Andrew McNeil syndication. The drawing depicts an officer pointing a gun at a kid's back, with a caption that reads, "Meanwhile, far from the border, children are being separated from their families." Lubbock State Representative Dustin Burrows calls the cartoon offensive and not funny at all.
I have the utmost respect for the job they do. What we ask them to do is extraordinarily difficult, and everyone I've ever met takes their job very seriously. They execute it with professionalism. There's so many good experiences.
The Lubbock Professional Police Association responded with a statement which reads in part, "This cartoon is a continuation of the false narrative that police officers disproportionately use deadly force against unarmed minorities." They also say it's inappropriate and unprofessional. The paper responded with an editorial saying in part, "Monday's editorial cartoon made an extreme comparison with which we do not agree, but what is more important than agreement is to provide an outlet which presents differing viewpoints and opinions." State lawmakers are meeting this weekend, last discussing school safety efforts after Governor Abbott's recommendations. One discussion, whether to enhance protective order laws to include red flag notices that allow law enforcement, family members, school officials, or district attorneys to ask to temporarily remove firearms from a potentially dangerous person. Advocates on both sides of the gun rights issue testified to state leaders, along with mental health experts, law enforcement personnel, and judges. Also on the table, hiring more veterans and retired peace officers to guard our schools. Some ISD police officers tell lawmakers many of their skills gained in the military actually translate to their work in schools. They suggested some ways legislators could streamline the training process. Some veterans, though, stressed minimum police training is at least needed, since not all jobs in the military teach about working with kids or handling an active shooter situation. And political candidates may now be able to pay for child care with financial contributions after a decision by the Texas Ethics Commission. Katie Robinson, who's running for Wichita County Commissioner, asked the state body to determine if she could use political contributions for child care for her 2 young children while she campaigned. And the vote in favor sets a new precedent for the state. Critics say this opens the door for candidates to convert political contributions for personal use, with the Texas election code now prohibits. And in your national news, in a 5-4 ruling this week, the Supreme Court has upheld President Trump's travel ban. The ban has been in effect since December. In the decision, Chief Justice Roberts writes that the ban is squarely within the president's power. Roberts goes on to say the sole prerequisite is that the entry covered aliens would be detrimental to the interests of the United States. The president has undoubtedly fulfilled that requirement here. Justice Sonia Sotomayor wrote in dissent that a reasonable observer would conclude that this proclamation was motivated by anti-Muslim animus. So here to spend 5 good minutes with us is ABC News political director Rick Klein. Rick, it's been a crazy few weeks up in Washington, so it's good to have you on to break it all down for us. I know something.
Sure, happy to be with you, Avery.
Yeah, something we've been, discussing a lot is that shocking announcement by Justice Anthony Kennedy, often being called that swing vote on the court. What do you make of this?
Yeah, you can't overstate the stakes here. This is the swing vote on the court, a chance for President Trump to solidify a conservative majority on the court, maybe for generations to come. So it has huge implications on just about any aspect of American life. Gay rights, abortion rights, civil rights, justice issues, environmental issues, labor issues, you name it, all of that potentially in the balance. And it sets up a titanic battle that is going to dominate the summer in Washington and beyond. We know that Republicans have the votes, but it's a narrow majority, and there's so much riding on this, all against the backdrop of an unpredictable president who's not one to shy away from a fight.
Any front runners you've seen or heard about?
Yeah, he's put out a list of 25 names, and it will be someone on that list. I'm intrigued by a couple of people there. There's a man named Brett Kavanaugh, was a finalist last time, that I think is very much going to be in the mix this time, a former Bush administration appointee. There's talk about maybe a female candidate, and there's a few of them on the list. Another one that's gotten some buzz recently is Senator Mike Lee from Utah. He's had a rocky relationship at times with President Trump. Both happens to be that both he and his brother are on the list, two guys named Lee. So we'll see, and the president says he's going to move very quickly on this, and the push will be on to try to get this done before the elections.
I know the talk has been how swiftly this appointment could happen. Do you think that deadline is going to be met?
Well, Democrats are going to do anything they can to try to stop it from being met. But the fact is Republicans have the votes. So as long as the nomination is done in a timely fashion and there's no major hiccup that comes up during the confirmation hearings, I have no reason to expect that this wouldn't be done well in advance of the midterms. The court session begins in October. That's the goal, is to have that full complement of 9 justices in place before then.
Now, how common is it for a president, to get to do this twice during their term?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's been a symmetry to this, where actually this will be the 4th president in a row to have 2 picks. Now, the question will be, will he get more than 2 picks? What makes this different than when Bill Clinton got to name 2 justices, and then Barack Obama and George W. Bush actually got the same number, is that this is a swing vote. This is not a conservative retiring and another conservative replacement. Kennedy was named by President Reagan, but he has got a reputation as the critical, crucial swing vote. So that the idea of a 5th conservative justice, that changes the math, that changes the majority-making abilities on the conservative side of the court.
So much to think about on that side of things. Now, turning to the fiery debate down at the border, even here in largely conservative Texas, those images coming out from the border causing quite a stir. What do you make of this, and what do you think is it going to take to get these 2 sides of the aisle to come to some sort of agreement on this?
Yeah, it looks like the week and therefore next week as well, because of the 4th of July holiday, is going to pass without Congress acting on this. So the president's order, which had some conflicting elements to it, was very contradictory at times and has been hard to implement, is still the law. And you've got some 2,000 kids who are still being detained despite a court order now to have them reunited with their parents. So they are very much in limbo. The policy is in limbo. And you've seen the president double down on some harsh anti-immigration rhetoric in the wake of this. So there's no sign, to my mind, of this abating. It is a genuine crisis for all of the families that have been separated. But both sides have really gone to their corners. I don't see a change to that.
Now, I know you mentioned the 4th of July holiday. They're looking ahead to the week and the weeks ahead. What do you think we can expect to be kind of on that calendar? Is that holiday going to throw a little bit of a wrench in things?
Well, I'm looking to see the Supreme Court battle begin to heat up. I'm also hearing a lot of talk about the economy and the impact of tariffs. And I wonder if, when members of Congress go home for the holiday in the next couple of days, they start to get an earful from farmers and the like, from manufacturing facilities. The Harley-Davidson announcement, a big deal for an iconic American brand. So I think all these issues that we talk about in the abstract, they become very real when the nation takes a little bit of a break and members of Congress are back at their barbecues and in their parades.
All right, that's all I've got for you, Rick. Good to have you on.
Thank you.
And still to come, our Jessica Smith has been tracking the progress of the most important piece of legislation affecting our South Plains farmers. We've got that up next.